LOL take two. LOL take two. LOL take two. Now listen. When we last left our hero in part 1, that would be me, I had just entered the waters of Cape Cod Bay to swim 1.5 miles across to Provincetown for a charity swim. Sure, I had trained. Yes, it had been a rough year and I was trying to get some kind of flow, or as I call it, it's moving, it's happening, I can feel the vibe back into my life and my career. But right now, I had to swim, and in a choppy 64-degree ocean. I grew up in Iowa. We didn't have oceans. We had lakes. Sure, the water was not clear and you found the occasional leech you had to pull off your skin, but we didn't have waves, tides, or all kinds of creatures lurking under the water that could do you harm. All 405 of us swimmers entered the bay at the same time, looking like a big school of piranha fish feeding at hometown buffet. Piranha fish wearing Day-Glo green rubber swimming caps, that is. The big clump of swimmers began to break up as everybody found their own pace. It didn't help that from our vantage point in the water, land now looked like a speck on the horizon. And you really had to pay attention to where you were going because the growing waves would push you off course. I had my goggles on. The sun had given way to clouds and the sea had become murky, so I closed my eyes and swam, just like I had trained for all those months before. Every so often I'd raise my head up to make sure I was on course, and I would usually have to steer myself back so that land was straight ahead. I closed my eyes and kept going. Pretty soon nobody was swimming near me as the crowd had spread out. There were lifeguards in boats ready to assist if you were in trouble, but they were quite a ways away from me. It was just me in the middle of this big, wavy, chilly ocean. My mind drifted back to the year before. Bill and I had gone to Egypt, and one of the days we were at the Great Giza Pyramid. Yeah, that pyramid, the one that's on all the money. We scored because they were letting people go into the pharaoh's burial chamber that day, which was in the center of the pyramid, way up toward the top. Now, the thing with pyramids is that you have to go down, way down first before you can go up. And it wasn't like you were going on some escalator at Nordstrom's with lovely piano music. You were kind of crawling down a large wooden ladder in a tunnel that was maybe twice the size of a wardrobe moving box. Now, I'm not claustrophobic, but I have to admit, I got halfway down, realized how far I was from daylight, and looked over my shoulder, and I was even farther away from where I was going. And I panicked. I broke out into a sweat. Bill noticed I had stopped and asked if I was okay. Yeah, but I was anything but okay. I took a couple of really deep breaths and realized that whichever way I went, whether back up from where I had come from or where I was heading, was going to involve crawling through this tunnel. So I took one more breath, put one foot in front of the other, and kept on going down, down, down. 45 minutes later, we arrived in the burial chamber, the most sacred place in the top of the Great Pyramid. There was a fan circulating the 2,500-year-old air, but a guide asked everybody to sit quietly, and he turned the fan off. The sudden stillness in that room was palpable, and from somewhere inside my guts, I started weeping. No, bawling. Okay, ugly crying. I don't know where it came from. I couldn't help it. It just came out of me. I pulled myself together as a group of Korean tourists entered the chamber wearing plastic visors and chattering, driving the ghosts of the pharaohs away. But I had felt them, and all because I had forged ahead and pushed through the panic. Back to Cape Cod Bay a year later, I adjusted myself toward land, yet again closed my eyes and forged ahead, alternating between the breaststroke and forward crawl stroke. Under the water, I began feeling things hitting my body, my chest, my arms, my legs. I was in the middle of Cape Cod Bay. There was no way I would be hitting seaweed. I opened my eyes underwater and saw what looked like hundreds of little 2-inch white opaque ghosts all around me. Oh my God, jellyfish! We most certainly did not have those in the lakes back in the Midwest. I had seen long-distance ocean swimmers on the news, their face and body swollen from multiple jellyfish stings. The jellyfish continued hitting my arms and my face. I started panicking, kind of like I had in the pyramid. Well, what should I do? I could holler and get a lifeguard to pull me out, but that would mean I was giving up. Or I could keep going, risking having jellyfish stings all over my body. I came up with Plan C. I flipped over onto my back and began swimming the backstroke. I could still feel them bumping against my body, but I had on a very attractive blue rash guard, so my back was better protected. My Day-Glo cap protected my head, and let's face it, I didn't want them to sting my face. I hadn't been stung yet, but could still feel these little buggers hitting my head, my legs, my back. Good Lord, what the hell? Was this some kind of jellyfish Comic-Con convention? So I did what any normal gay person would do. I began singing show tunes, out loud, at the top of my lungs. You'll be swell, you'll be great, gonna have the whole world on a plate. I would occasionally turn over onto my stomach to check my course as the tide kept pulling me in the wrong direction. I would look underwater and, yep, sure enough, all the jellyfish were still there. Flip back over. Honey, everything's coming up roses. After 2 choruses and a reprise, I couldn't feel the jellyfish hitting my body. So I flipped over yet again, opened my eyes, and all the little jellyfish ghosts were gone, hopefully scared off by my channeling my inner Ethel Merman. Truth be told, Bill and I had channeled Merman the year before when we were in Egypt. Our trip ended with a 4-day cruise on the Nile. These boats only had about 200 passengers, and we were assigned a dinner seating with a couple from somewhere in the Midwest. They seemed nice enough, but the next day when we showed up for dinner, they were nowhere to be found. They had swapped out of our seating and into another seating and joined another couple, another straight couple. Years before, my mom and auntie had taken our entire family on a celebration of life cruise from my Uncle Tom. It was really nice, and we were all together for Christmas. We had met a gay couple from Chicago, a couple of really nice guys whose dinner table mates had done the same thing to them. My family took these guys under our wings, and they became part of our clan for the week. And now it was happening to us, on a much smaller boat, and Bill and I were pissed. One night, everybody was dressed up in their Egyptian wear. Bill and I had purchased galabayas in Aswan. Those are the outfits that, for a man, you have like a long shirt thing that's kind of like a dress, and then you have a pair of loose pants under it, and you wear a skull cap. I was walking down the hallway getting some ice and ran into a woman who was dressed very Cleopatra chic, and I said, "You look fabulous, dear." And she looked at me like, well, duh, and said, "It's Galabaya night." We did run into our ex-table mates during Galabaya night and lovingly called them out for their dinner seating snub. Oh, they kind of backtracked. No, we just... And the next night they showed back up at our table, but it was never the same. The Nile was a fascinating place, and the vistas and light uniquely memorable. Our boat had private balconies, and we spent many hours watching the villages, felucca sailboats, and locals living their life along this most famous stretch of water. The peacefulness, however, was ruined many times a day by the calls to prayer. The dinner table snub had brought back too many memories of bullying and harassment growing up, and this in-your-face religious wailing was too much. And finally, both Bill and I provided our own counter-programming from our balcony. Anytime that would start, we began singing Ethel Merman at the top of our lungs. You'll be swell, you'll be great, gonna have the whole world on a plate. The little villagers washing their laundry in the Nile didn't quite know what to make of us, but we felt better and we were able to have a genuine laugh and move on. Back in Cape Cod Bay, I was finally nearing the shore. I couldn't believe what a journey this 1.5 miles had been, and I had made it. Woohoo! The cheerleaders on shore, including my husband, family, and friends, were pounding their drums and waving their pom-poms and hoping that one of the Day-Glo green swimming caps belonged to me. I came out of the water and had made pretty good time. 56 minutes and 42 seconds through choppy sea, hundreds of jellyfish, and channeling Ethel Merman. Not bad. I had done it, and the feeling of accomplishment from making the choice to participate in the swim and taking some action on it was a huge life lesson for me. First of all, I wasn't a total loser at sports. Well, mostly I am, but not at swimming. And when I felt stuck, when it wasn't moving or happening, or I could not feel the vibe, it was almost always out of frustration, which was born out of fear. Fear I wasn't good enough. Fear I wasn't talented enough. Fear people wouldn't like me. And whether midway down a huge shaft in the Great Pyramid, or in the middle of the ocean getting pelted by jellyfish, or sitting on my patio trying to write a podcast and thinking, ugh, this one really sucks, the only way I can get back to feeling the vibe is to take the first part of the phrase, it's moving, and start moving. Do something, anything. Set a timer for 2 minutes and just start typing stream of consciousness. Or take 5 minutes and walk around the block, which inevitably for me turns into a 3-mile, 45-minute walk. And suddenly things happen. The dam will always burst, and any motion whatsoever beats inertia, because inspiration will always be drawn to motion. So, my friends, that's how I get from zero to it's moving, it's happening, I can feel the vibe. And amazingly, after accomplishing the swim that year, my moving really kicked in. I booked 2 national commercials and had one of my national spots turn into 2 spots. I ended up having 6 national spots on the air that year, as well as writing a musical version of my short film, 13 Heads of Hair. Coincidence? Just luck? Could be, but I don't think so. It was me. Wait, or maybe it was the ghost of Ethel Merman. LOL take 2. LOL take 2. LOL take 2.